and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dewbs & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name is Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good evening, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Dawn Neeson and you are watching Dewbs & Co. We have the most astonishing show for you on yet another astonishing day in British politics. Will Keir Starmer last this hour? The biggest story in town as police search properties linked to Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister is facing growing questions over his leadership. And I have the perfect panel for you tonight. Leader of Reform UK on the London Assembly, Alex Wilson, and journalist and former political advisor, Joe Phillips. But first, let's get the latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dawn, thank you. The top stories. Police are searching addresses in Wiltshire and Camden in North London as part of a misconduct in public office investigation launched into Lord Peter Mandelson. The force says the searches are related to their ongoing investigation into misconduct in public office offences involving a 72-year-old man. They say he has not been arrested and inquiries are ongoing. It says the government will publish shortly the Mandelson files, Downing Street has said. It's not thought any documents will be released today. It says the Prime Minister remains under pressure from within Labour ranks over the Mandelson scandal. It's thought the total number of government documents related to the Mandelson scandal could be close to 100,000. Sir Keir Starmer apologised to Epstein's victims yesterday for believing the peer's lies about his relationship with the paedophile financier. Meanwhile, former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is said to be preparing a bid to oust Sir Keir as Labour leader. Kemi Badenoch spoke this afternoon.
I think what the government is worried about, and Keir Starmer in particular, is that it will expose just how close Peter Mandelson was to his administration, of helping to appoint reshuffles, deciding who should be in the cabinet. I think that that's what they're really worried about, not the special relationship. And that's why I don't want to see any delay at all. We should get the files, especially those surrounding the vetting and the appointment of Peter Mandelson.
Serial killer Steve Wright has been sentenced to 40 years in prison for the murder of 17-year-old Victoria Hall in 1999. Wright is also sentenced to 12 years for the kidnapping of Victoria and 9 years for the attempted kidnapping of Emily Doherty. Wright is already serving a whole life sentence for the murders of 5 women near Ipswich in 2006. Elsewhere, the police watchdog is investigating allegations of harassment, trolling and a threat against a Rotherham grooming gang victim. The Independent Office for Police Conduct launched 2 separate investigations relating to South Yorkshire Police last year, GB News can disclose. The investigations are assessing if South Yorkshire Police was involved in online harassment, stalking and leaking personal information about the victim. In response, South Yorkshire Police said, "We are aware of the allegations and continue to support the IOPC investigation." 3 African countries have agreed on an illegal migrant returns deal with Britain after the Home Secretary threatened visa sanctions. More than 3,000 migrants and foreign criminals from Namibia, Angola and the Democratic Republic of Congo will now have their deportations fast-tracked. Shabana Mahmood gave them a month to start cooperating or face a sliding scale of penalties that would have culminated in a ban on visas for their citizens. Elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer's flagship Chagos Islands bill has been pulled from the parliamentary calendar as pressure grows on the Prime Minister to rethink plans to hand sovereignty to Mauritius. Labour peer Lord Kempsall confirmed the legislation will not return to the Commons before MPs leave for recess in 6 days' time. Meanwhile, the US President Donald Trump has appeared to soften his stance on the deal, saying Sir Keir Starmer made the best agreement he could following what he described as productive talks. A restaurateur has been found guilty of spiking a woman's drink with a date rape drug at a Mayfair private members club in a bid to overpower her for sex. 63-year-old Vikas Nath laced the woman's spicy margarita after she left him with the drink in the rooftop garden bar at Annabelle's. Southwark Crown Court heard Nath had grown frustrated with the woman's apparent reluctance to have sex with him prior to the spiking incident, and he took GBL in a vanilla extract bottle with him to the club. Well, prosecutors said today that his plan had been to drug the woman and then to take her back to his home for sex when she'd been overpowered or stupefied. A summer camp leader who drugged children with sweets laced with a tranquilizer before sexually assaulting them has been jailed for more than 23 years. Leicester Crown Court heard 76-year-old John Rubin, who ran a holiday camp for at least 27 years, was arrested last year after several children were taken to hospital. Liquid Xanax was found to have been used on some of the victims at Stathen Lodge in Leicestershire. Rubin, who was labelled by his wife as a sadistic, monstrous paedophile, used the cloak of Christianity to carry out his sex attacks on vulnerable children. Finally, in other news, people have begun arriving for the Winter Olympics opening ceremony in Milan. Italian authorities have tightened security around Milan San Siro Stadium, which will provide the stage for the main part of a ceremony where US pop singer Mariah Carey and Andrea Bocelli will both perform. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters gathered earlier to oppose the presence of US ICE agents and the closure of schools and streets in the city ahead of the opening. The event will combine elements from both co-hosts, Cortina and Milan, seeking to reflect both city and mountain life. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, it's back to Dawn.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, welcome to Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, tonight, and another seismic day in British politics. You couldn't make this up. I'm convinced there's a group of people in a room somewhere sitting going, what's the maddest thing we can make up to happen today? Will they swallow that one? No, of course they won't. Then they put it out there and then we'll go, wow, it is insane. So, clock's ticking. Will Keir Starmer last the next hour? You don't want to go anywhere because if he goes, we'll be there. We'll be telling you all the gory breaking details. In any case, a great panel for you tonight. Joining me until 7 o'clock is a leader of Reform UK on the London Assembly, Alex Wilson, and journalist and former political advisor, Joe Phillips. So, and of course, as always, this show is all about you. Lots of you are getting in touch, and I don't blame you on such a day. I just want to read this one out because you have absolutely nailed it. This is from Hippie Chick in a tinfoil hat. Great name. She says, I'm assuming you're a she, says, what a head-spinning day for us Brits. My mind is all over the place and try and get some humour in. I'm going to give it a go. At the moment, I'm waiting for Jack Regan from the Sweeney to roar down Downing Street, break the door open, shouting, you're nicked, at the top of the voice. Now off to lie down in a dark room. Well, if you are a hippie chick, make sure there's a TV on in the corner, or at least the radio on. Thank you for listening on the radio. We're doing very well. gbnews.com/your say is the way to get involved. Have your say, because this show is all about you. And hopefully, maybe some politicians might even be listening and actually get their fingers out and do something, because what a mess we are in. Now, as we just read out from Hippie Chick there, police are actually indeed searching Lord Mandelson's homes. Sir Keir Starmer is coming under mounting pressure from within his own party and probably within his own home as he struggles to steady the ship amid growing anger over the scandal. So let's get an update on this breaking story. Every 5 minutes it changes and there's one person to be on top of it all, obviously. GBNews political editor Christopher Hope. Christopher, I don't know how you're doing. I can't keep up. I want to lie down in the dark room as well. What's the latest today?
The latest, Dawn, and Hippie Chick is onto something there. There are now police at the Wiltshire property of Lord Mandelson. We're told that 6 unmarked police cars have arrived there. They're taking unfolded archive boxes. They're entering the property there with a marked car there from Wiltshire Police also in attendance. Separate to that, there's a similar operation in Camden, which is the Lord Mandelson's London home. Also, packing boxes have gone in there. We counted 4 from the pictures we've seen. They've gone into the property. Those boxes are now inside Lord Mandelson's homes. They could well be filled with documentation or phones or any other information required as the police complete this investigation into this issue of misconduct in public office. It goes back, of course, to Lord Mandelson's time as a minister in the last Labour government, 2909-2010. 3 emails shared with Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced paedophile financier, are at the heart of this. One told Epstein in advance when Gordon Brown would stand down before he stood down as Prime Minister. Don't forget, in that 5 days after the election in 2010, he still was Prime Minister. Then he handed over to the coalition. Also in the same time frame, it appeared, according to the messages, that Peter Mandelson gave a tip-off of a forthcoming huge EU bailout of the euro. Again, that might have been helpful to Jeffrey Epstein, although Lord Mandelson said he was simply sharing information at the time and denied any wrongdoing. And the third area was a policy note sent to Gordon Brown that Lord Mandelson saw, again passed to Jeffrey Epstein, which talked about the possible selling off of assets of UK government to restore calm to the UK economy after the banking crash. That's at the heart there, and they were seeing on screen now Lord Mandelson with Sir Keir Starmer, because the political damage right now, 15 years later, there's obviously an issue there for Lord Mandelson to deal with. Again, he pleased nothing wrong, but for Keir Starmer, it's all about why he appointed this man back into the government a year ago, making him the ambassador to Washington. The pictures there, I was in the room for those pictures. That was the first unveiling of Lord Mandelson as the UK ambassador. He called him Peter there, the Prime Minister. Well, he didn't yesterday when I was with him in Hastings. He spat out the words Mandelson like he's trying to spit out a fly from his mouth. Very unhappy about having to think about him, very upset. It's moving very quickly. Keir Starmer's now going over this weekend, apparently examining his conscience, we're told by The Guardian, about what to do next. MPs are upset. They're cross about him, about his judgment. What no one is saying in number yet is he must stand down. Privately, MPs are upset, and are saying privately it's time he moved on, but not saying it publicly, because in part it's not clear who might replace him. Reports today saying Angela Rayner is ready for it. Well, I would simply remind you, Dawn, and viewers, that 5 months ago today, Lauren Magnus, the ethics advisor, said that she had broken the ministerial code and suggested she couldn't stay on in office. So why on earth she can now be Prime Minister 5 months after that is beyond me. Others too, West Streeting and the like, not clear who would win the base of the party, and that's why, without a clear candidate to replace him, I think Sir Keir Starmer stays for now.
For now, but how long, Christopher? How long can he last?
I think going through the local elections, my experience of having covered politics for 30 years is these individuals, they're writing every day the first line of their obituary. They don't want to give up that role until they really, really have to. I mean, Theresa May went through months of uncertainty before she went. And indeed, we heard from the PM yesterday in Hastings. He talked about that landslide majority in July 2024. He personally won that. He led the party to that. He won't want to give that away because, as I say, this is the most important job he'll ever do in his life, and therefore he'll want to stay on for as long as he can.
Unfortunately, he's doing an absolutely terrible job at it. For something he's wanted for so long, he's messed it up within 18 months. Christopher Hope, thank you so much. Let us know if anything else happens in the next few minutes, won't you? GB News political editor Christopher Hope there. Well, where do you even start with this one, Joe? He has to go. I cannot comprehend Harry is clinging on.
Well, I think he's a goner, for sure. But I think, as Chris said just there is no obvious candidate to succeed him. Now, if Angela Rayner's tax affairs are finally sorted out, and we all know how slow HMRC can be, then she might be in a position to stand. But, you know, don't forget that Keir Starmer came into Downing Street promising to end the chaos that we'd had.
Yes.
You know, 6 prime ministers in every 5 minutes, you know, chopping and changing. There was not going to be a psychodrama. And the really awful thing about this, Dawn, is that this is entirely of his own making. So he can blame as much as he likes, oh, this didn't come up in vetting, or this didn't happen, or that didn't. This is a man who's a lawyer, who has spent his life being forensic with the evidence. There was enough in the public domain to make anybody half sensible go, I don't know, it's a bit iffy, it's a bit too risky. And I think, you know, Harriet Harman, who I have a lot of time for, said this morning, or yesterday, in fact, that what is happening now has made Keir Starmer look weak, naive and gullible.
I think she was being polite.
Well, yeah, and it is very difficult to defend this because you cannot blame. We knew he'd resigned. We knew he'd resigned from the cabinet twice. We knew he was a jackdaw.
And Joe, let's be fair, he was encouraged to resign.
Well, yes.
I don't think he would have gone, yeah, I'm going to resign, I've been a bad boy.
There were enough questions and there was enough evidence about his magpie-like jackdaw love of shiny, glittery things. But the one thing I would say, Dawn, that when, you know, Keir Starmer is long forgotten and this blows over and we move on to the next serial in this soap opera, this incident of Peter Mandelson, as Chris referred to there, and the betrayal of Gordon Brown and Alistair Darling, the late Alistair, will be as bad as Kim Philby and John Profumo.
It is. The thing is with John Profumo, we keep coming back to John Profumo. Many of you I know of an age we remember. John Profumo, he was actually a war hero and he went on to do charitable good works.
Yes, he disappeared from public life and reinvented
you
himself.
can't imagine Mandelson doing that. I mean, this is 3 strikes and you're out. And potentially, I mean, the Lord of Darkness, I mean, we'll know what Lord of Darkness, they keep coming back from the back. I mean, Alex, who, right, with any judgment whatsoever, looks at a bloke who's good friends with a convicted child sex trafficker and who hangs around with very rich Russians on very posh yachts, who looks at that bloke and goes, you'll be a great person to go to America and represent us. We want you advising us in Parliament. What sort of man has that judgment?
Well, it's absolutely staggering. I mean, those of us that are involved in politics or observe politics, you know, find politics fascinating, but most of the time it's not something that gets a real cut through to the wider public in the same way as this particular story has. It's wall-to-wall coverage on this channel and others, and because it's such big news and such a shock, but actually it's not really a surprise that this has happened the way it's happened. It comes down fundamentally to Keir Starmer's judgment. You know, we know Peter Mandelson has a very questionable past. You know, he's, as Joe's already said, you know, not just once but twice had to resign in disgrace. So you know, why on earth would you think that putting this person in such a high-profile role, you know, the special relationship with the USA, it's probably our most important ambassadorial position to send to America, and you think, let's have Peter Mandelson as the man to do that. I don't know why he would think that.
But I think that was the reasoning behind it, Alex, that here was somebody who was liked rich people, was very well connected, was smart, clever, ruthless, all of those things, you know, and he used that to huge advantage for the Labour Party over many years. And I think the thinking behind it was that he would be the right person to deal with mercurial Trump. I mean, even, you know, your party leader, Nigel Farage, said, well, I can see some sense.
It's a good network. I mean, Nigel Farage said that, didn't he? He is a good networker.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at his network.
You can sort of see the argument for it, but there is a point where common sense, and it's interesting, a lot of the stuff that I've seen over the last 24 hours is about the women in grey suits going to
Yes, that's the front page of The Independent today, wasn't it, or The Eye?
Whether, you know, if anybody had listened to the women who'd gone, hang on a minute, he's a dodgy. Sue Gray, who was before Morgan McSweeney, Mandelson wasn't on her list to be ambassador.
Well, no, and will it make any difference, Alex, if Morgan McSweeney is given the elbow?
I don't think so. I think people want change at the top, and it's the Prime Minister that's got to go.
The boss is in charge. The buck stops, surely.
Exactly. He was elected. When this government came to power, a year and a half ago, it won that election with a big majority, and within the rules of the electoral system that we have, a big mandate, and people wanted change. And instead of having a clear sense of direction, we've had policy U-turn. I think was it 14 or 15?
15, I think.
Now. Let's say,
this could potentially
and this could be another one. Yeah, absolutely. So in
18 months.
So a major U-turn every single month, and it would be funny if it wasn't so serious. We've got the economy is flatlining. We've got the highest tax burden since the war. Businesses are struggling. Unemployment now up to an 11-year high. Open borders. All these big problems, and people are looking for some steer and direction from the government. All they're getting is a sense of shambles on the policy front and on the personnel front. It's you mentioned psychodrama. That's exactly the right word to describe what's going on.
But the real sad thing and the really bad thing is that it makes people think, wrongly in my opinion, and you're an elected politician, that all politicians are the same, and they're not. Politics is full of really good, decent people, and this sort of thing.
This is the problem. I mean, it does. I mean, lots of people I know, lots of you watching will hold politicians in contempt. Before this happened, the mess the previous Conservative government made, the mess this government are making. So, but this is a different level, isn't it? This is like, what the hell? Remember, who's paying their wages, by the way? It's you and I. We did find someone to defend Keir Starmer today. It's Mike Tapp, Government Minister. Should we have a look at what he had to say?
But I do know that Keir Starmer's a good man. I do know that he means it when he apologises. And I also know that he's working hard with Jess Phillips, for example, to ensure that we reduce violence against women and girls and make the country safer for them. So I trust the Prime Minister on this, and I'm confident that when these files are released, the public will agree with that.
Right, OK. He still trusts the Prime Minister. Let me know whether you still trust the Prime Minister. gbnews.com/your say. Because obviously this is a Prime Minister that is in position but not in power. I mean, Joe, you just looked at the people on the Labour benches, the way they were glaring at their boss. They had their arms folded. There was palpable anger.
Yeah, and these are people who will be going back to their constituencies this weekend, and they're going to have people turning up for meetings about housing or education or health or waiting lists or whatever it is. And they're going to have to stand there and say, no, I will help you. And people will go, no, you're just as bad as the last lot. And that's the problem, because it's dangerous for democracy. When you have a vacuum, bad people fill that space.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's a pretty big space to fill, and they seem to be doing it very well. We are coming back to this subject, of course. It is only subject in town. Breaking news happening throughout the day, and anything could happen in the next hour. I mean, will Keir Starmer last to the end of the programme? But coming up, we will bring you the latest on that story at Mandelson. And could Angela Rayner make a return? Don't go too far. I'll see you soon.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dewbs, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's your boy. Hello, welcome back. This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Neeson, keeping me company until 7 o'clock. Alex Wilson and Joe Phillips, and of course you. gbnews.com/your say, scan the QR code, get in touch, because we are talking about, obviously, the story, Mandelson. The Sweeney turned up at, I'm paraphrasing, but, you know, the police turned up at his two properties. Why? I know, yeah. Why wouldn't he have two properties? I don't know where he got all that money from, wonder. Any case, police turned up today and raided both properties. So that is where we are. A man that was in the centre of government, our ambassador in Washington, just a few months ago, basically. Now the old bill are turning up on his doorstep. I mean, you couldn't even make this up. Even madder is the fact the person we're all talking about are potentially replacing him if Keir Starmer does finally fall on his sword is Angela Rayner, a woman that just 5 months ago was found to be not paying her tax, her stamp duty. Remember that? £40,000 mysteriously not paid to HM Revenue and Customs. As far as we're aware, that still hasn't been paid. But now we're all sitting there going, actually, Angela Rayner sounds like a fairly good bet. Joe?
Well, Angela Rayner won't stand until HMRC have cleared up the investigation.
Yeah, but the fact we're thinking that our politics are in such a state that we're thinking that someone who hasn't paid their tax is a good idea.
Hang on a minute. You know, there are people who've gone from Conservative to Reformer who've had their own issues with tax and had to resign for similar reasons and been sacked for similar reasons. So, you know, I don't think it's particular to one particular party.
No, I wasn't being party-specific. I mean, like everyone watching tonight, I think,
what? Everything's so febrile. It's sort of like, it's a bit like playing...
Febrile, but
it's like playing fantasy football. It's like, well, they've taken him off, so who's on the bench? Who could we bring? Now, Angela Rayner, the thing about Keir Starmer, Dawn, is he is not a political animal. He hasn't got the political antennae. Patrick Maguire in The Times today wrote that he has outsourced stuff. He outsources decisions to Morgan McSweeney, to Rachel Reeves, to...
He's a forensic barrister. Didn't he read anything?
But that's the point. That doesn't make you to go, hang on a minute, this is dodgy. Whereas Angela Rayner, of course, is a political animal through and through. So Angela Rayner can't do anything at the moment. Wes Streeting, Health Secretary, widely tipped to want the job, but is also a protégé of Peter Mandelson.
Exactly, and has mysteriously deleted all the pictures on his social media with
so
Mandelson,
they say.
which is a really stupid thing to do.
But we don't know that. We don't know that.
Well, we do.
That's only rumour. But I think the thing is, it is not like the Conservative Party, which is ruthless in changing leader, as we already know. It's complicated in the Labour Party.
Yeah, they make it complicated. Alex, let's bring you in on this one. I mean, it's like Keir Starmer, basically, has shown the actual nous of an amoeba. I mean, you know, there are more intelligent things lying at the bottom of ponds than Keir Starmer at the moment, as far as I'm concerned. He just did not see this coming. He didn't read any of the briefings that were given to him. There were TV programmes on how dodgy our Mandelson was. Didn't watch that, obviously. He's a barrister. Is he paying attention to any detail? Well, if he's not paying attention to stuff like this, what else is going by the by?
Well, he built his reputation as being Mr. Forensic, and if you've got that as your reputation, to miss the blindingly obvious seems absolutely bizarre. But what he lacks, most of all, is judgment and instinct and political nous. He's not someone who has fought his way through local politics and built that experience that way, and then into Parliament. He was put in place as leader of the Labour Party at a time when, frankly, anybody could have been leader of the Labour Party and won that general election.
Well,
yes, he won big.
I think that's unfair, Alex, because, if you remember where Labour were when Jeremy Corbyn, who refused to stand down after a vote of no confidence from his own party, and then managed to lead Labour to an absolutely disastrous defeat.
But he got more votes in the elections that he lost than Keir Starmer did.
But
Keir Starmer won the election because the Conservatives were an absolute catastrophe.
But he made the Labour Party electable again.
But then what's he done with it since?
Well, absolutely.
It took 8 years for the shine to come off Tony Blair. It took 8 months, possibly even 8 weeks for the same to happen with Starmer. All that time preparing for government and didn't have a clue what to do.
But I think the other thing is that this is going to go much deeper because there's a company called Palantir, an American company, which is owned and run by a bloke called Peter Thiel, who is very close to Donald Trump and who is also mentioned, not that he's necessarily done anything wrong, as a contact or a friend of Epstein. Now, they've just won a walloping great contract for Britain's health service and defence services. And there are lots of people now saying, hang on a minute, pause this, because the introductions were facilitated by Peter Mandelson.
Well, I mean, obviously we don't have anyone here to defend themselves in that situation, and that is speculation, but we will look into it. But the new polling suggests that Starmer would see off a leadership challenge from Wes Streeting and Ed Miliband, i.e. still more popular than them, which is interesting, but he would lose to Angela Rayner and Andy Burnham.
And that's precisely why the Labour Party NEC didn't allow Andy Burnham to be standing.
So he's out of the running. Yeah. He can't.
He can't. Yeah, let's not mention the local election.
The only person at the moment is Angela Rayner, possibly. I don't think Keir Starmer. I may live to eat the paper I'm looking at, but I don't think he's going to resign immediately, simply because it would then leave us as if we need any more chaos, because you don't automatically have a deputy prime minister step up.
Well, who would the options be, Jo? I mean, you've been a political advisor. Who would the options be? I mean, David Lammy?
David Lammy is the Deputy Prime Minister. Lucy Powell is the Deputy Leader. Now, I mean, the nearest we've had to this was when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister and was in hospital with COVID, and Dominic Raab stepped in. Anybody remember Dominic Raab? Not many people do, but anyway.
No, true.
That was his moment. When John Smith died, Margaret Beckett, who was Deputy Leader, became Leader of the Labour Party, but of course they were in opposition, they weren't in government. There is no constitutional role for Deputy Prime Minister, so it would be up to the Cabinet, really, to choose who would be. And I don't think Keir Starmer actually would inflict that constitutional crisis on the country and the King at the moment.
OK, now...
He might not have a choice.
They'd still have to get 80 MPs, would have to say, we've got no confidence.
Well, from the look on their faces the other day.
Yeah, but would you get 80 people backing either... the only one that we've mentioned that at the moment is a possibility is Wes Streeting, because Angela Rayner can't, Andy Burnham can't, and Ed Miliband might. But, if that's your choice, you might as well wait.
OK, I mean, just 24% of voters evidently want Keir Starmer to stay as Labour leader. What happens after that? Now, interestingly, Kemi Badenoch, leader of the Conservative Party, said today that she thinks that it will go to a 2029 general election. But she says, I am ready beforehand if that is what it takes. Now, your reform on the London Council, would reform be ready?
We absolutely would. We're getting ready now for an early election. Obviously, the latest it can be is 2029, but Nigel has repeatedly said that it could well be as early as next year, and we have to be ready for that. We're putting in process that where we are now compared to where we were at the last general election. The real game changer is the local branches that we've got set up. Now, this is why we're doing so well in council by-elections week on week on week. Only last night winning a fantastic victory on Anglesey, right in the Plaid Cymru heartland. First time we've gained a seat from Plaid Cymru, but week on week on week we're gaining seats from the Conservatives, we're gaining seats from Labour, building that infrastructure at local level, looking forward to the local elections and the Welsh elections, the Scottish elections in May, where we're going to have a fantastic range of candidates.
where you're in power, where I live in Kent, it's an absolute shambles. And I can't keep up with the number of people who were elected as reform councillors who are then having to leave because they've been upset or they've said something wrong. And actually, Nigel Farage said in a BBC documentary this week that you're not ready for government, you're about halfway there.
Yeah. So we will be ready by the time of an election.
Yeah,
the
but if there was a snap election...
Well, we would be certainly much more ready than we were for the last one. And I say, the branches, the candidates that we're putting in place and the policy work that's going on behind the scenes, it's, you know, serious stuff. You know, I see Nigel quite regularly, and I've never seen anyone look so determined as I do when I look in his eyes now. He knows this is his chance to become Prime Minister, something that has never been a realistic possibility before. Now it is, and he's deadly serious about making this happen.
OK, just quickly, there's a brilliant little cartoon that someone's put online of Nigel Farage and Kemi Badenoch doing a little celebratory dance about the fall of Labour and Keir Starmer in particular. Will they end up working together?
No.
Kemi, definitely not.
Not a chance.
Definitely not.
But also, you've got Reform now looking like an offshoot of the Tory party that the country kicked out in order to get Labour in. You've got all of those former Tory ministers, Suella Braverman, Robert Jenrick, Nadeem Zahawi, Danny Kruger and all the rest of them, and Andrew Rossingdale. And meanwhile, actually very quietly, the Greens and the Liberal Democrats are just quietly scooping up. And you're talking about local elections and by-elections. Both the Greens and the Liberal Democrats are doing well.
The Greens are not doing well in local elections. They've only gained one seat in council by-elections since the local elections in May. Their polling is very strong, but so far it hasn't translated into by-elections.
OK, Alex, we'll let you go into that. We have to take a very, very quick break, but don't you dare go anywhere because Keir Starmer could be gone by the time you come back. See you soon.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Further very heavy rain and strong winds in Spain and Portugal likely to cause more flooding problems here throughout the weekend. Another spell of very heavy rain, especially across the south of Spain, where river levels are already running exceptionally high. There'll be some showers heading into Italy, also looking a little drier for Greece on Saturday with some sunny spells here, and we'll continue to see some sunshine across the Canaries through the weekend and into the early part of next week, with temperatures rising a little bit here too.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you're looking for a change in the weather this weekend, I can offer you something maybe a little less wet, a little less cold, but there will still be showers around thanks to this area of low pressure. It's been bringing plenty of rain through the day. These weather fronts slowly arcing northwards. Still some snow over the tops of the Scottish mountains, but as milder air is tracking northwards, it will be turning more and more to rain. Still a cold wind blowing, though, into some of these North Sea coast, but the wind's changing direction further south. Something a bit drier for a time, but then more heavy showery rain coming into the southwest. Temperatures mostly staying well above freezing, 7 or 8 degrees to start the weekend across the south. But yes, there's more showery rain tracking in here too. Still got this nagging wind bringing moisture and lots of cloud to Aberdeenshire. Mostly rain by this stage, but more rain falling onto very soggy ground could cause some problems. Bit of shelter in western Scotland again, so largely dry here. A few showers still in Northern Ireland, but things are turning a bit drier here too. And then for England and Wales, a real mishmash with bands of showers moving northwards, but it won't rain all day. There will be some drier spells in between. And that wind, particularly for northeastern parts of England, coming in from a different direction and easing too in southeast Scotland. So that'll probably make it feel at least a bit warmer than today, whereas the cold wind continues in the far northeast. Plenty of showers coming in around this area of low pressure. You can see the swirl there, but bringing milder air with it, so 10 or 11 in the south with a bit of sunshine, and further north those temperatures a bit higher than today's values and will have mostly lost that wind. It's still there though in the far northeast on Sunday. A few more showers coming into western Scotland by this stage. Elsewhere, again, a good deal of dry weather, quite murky, quite grey and misty to start Sunday. May brighten up at times, but as you can see, there will again be a few showers around. Goodbye.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M25 clockwise between junctions 27 and 28, a crash has shut 3 of 4 lanes, with delays up to an hour. In Leicestershire, on the M1 southbound between junctions 21 and 20, a road traffic collision has closed 2 lanes, causing about 50-minute delays. The M26 eastbound from the M25 to junction 3 in Kent is congested, adding around 40 minutes. The A720 westbound at Gilmerton is restricted following an incident. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast has major disruption with reduced services between London Euston and Watford Junction. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello and welcome back. This is Dewbs & Co with me, Dawn Niesman. Tonight I've got Joe and Alex keeping me company tonight. Alex, very aware that you haven't done much talking as much as Joe. Tut, 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 Joe.
Tut, tut, tut.
But we are obviously talking about the only subject in town. How long will Keir Starmer last? Will he indeed last until the end of the show? Lots of people are getting in touch and saying that, you know, they are reform supporters and they don't like the fact that other people, like Joe, are pointing out that reform wouldn't be ready. So you actually think if there was a general election, a snap general election, reform would win?
Absolutely. We've been ahead in the opinion polls for, I think, 224 consecutive opinion polls. I talked about local by-elections. We've been doing very well in the local council elections last year. We did phenomenally well in those shire counties, and we're setting ourselves up for, you know, real challenge in the elections coming up in May, and including here in London, all 32 London boroughs. I've been campaigning right across the capital. Last week I was in Hillingdon. The week before I was in Dagenham. The week before that I was in Croydon, as well as doing stuff on my own patch. And the message I'm getting constantly on the doors, doesn't matter what borough I'm knocking on the doors in, people are really, really fed up with this Labour government. They're fed up with Keir Starmer, and that's even before all the news that's happened this week with Peter Mandelson. So there's a real appetite for something different. They're fed up with Sadiq Khan as well, and that's a really important thing here in London, because his record on crime and policing, on transport, on housing, absolute failure, and it's reform that's taken the fight to Labour, as elsewhere in the country, here in London too.
Now, Joe would no doubt point out that reform have had their scandals as well. What would you say to that?
Well, every party has teething problems, and you know, we are growing from a very small.
Gill was a teething.
We're very well. Nathan Gill is irrelevant. Nathan Gill was you know, 4 or 5 years ago. As soon as it became apparent what he'd done, he was thrown out. He's gone to prison, and that's the best place for him. And hopefully he'll share a cell with Mandelson.
Just explain Nathan Gill.
Nathan Gill was a UKIP and then Reform member, and he's been sent to prison for 10 years for asking questions on behalf of Russians. So, I mean, that's quite serious. That is a treason. Pretty, you know, betrayal. It's treachery.
Well, misconduct in public office is actually a life sentence.
Just to point out to the viewers who are saying they don't like people saying reform's not ready. It was Nigel Farage who said that, actually. He said it in a BBC documentary this week about reform. And I think that's very honest. It's much better to say we're not completely ready. I mean, crikey, I've run election campaigns, and sometimes you put up paper candidates hoping and praying that they're not going to win because you know they're not ready for it.
This is what I don't understand, Alex. I mean, to be fair to Joe, and I know a lot of you, you know, sort of like say Joe is sort of like, you know, too lefty, etc., etc. But it's sometimes it's common sense that Joe would have seen through. I think it's fair to say you would have seen through Peter Mandelson. You, as a political advisor, would have said to Keir Starmer, well, dodgy, don't go near him.
Yeah, and I think, you know, one of the things that marks a good leader, whatever party they're in or whatever role they're in, is having people around them who will tell them this is a really stupid idea, and they'll take it. Because if you only surround yourselves with people who go, OK, you don't drive, that's all right, Dawn, I know where I'm going, oh, whoops, we've gone down a cul-de-sac, or, oh, Alex, no, I think whatever you do is wonderful. That's not being an advisor, that's just being a sycophant.
Absolutely. You need people on board who will tell you what you need to hear, not what they think you might want to hear. And that's part of the reason why we brought some people on from the Conservative Party. Yes, they've had to admit that what they got wrong in government was pretty catastrophic, and they held their hands up to that. But if they're people that have come on board, like Danny Kruger, like Robert Jenrick, like Suella, who have got real experience of what it's like on the inside of government, and know how things work or not work, and can learn from that. But the fundamental, they have to admit that Conservative government as a whole, in that 14 years, got an awful lot wrong, and that's why we need to do better.
Yes, And I'm not quite sure how you do that with so many of those people who were in that government for such a long time. But the one thing I would say, and going back to this thing of people feeling that their vote doesn't count, that all politicians are the same.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And I think, you know, democracy is in crisis, you know, in many, many places, not just here. But all the time you've got people who've got an opinion, they'll go on Twitter, but they won't bother to vote. That is not a healthy democracy. We need a healthy opposition. We need a healthy mixture of parties. We need a healthy bunch of people who've got experience in other worlds outside of Westminster or outside of council chambers, who've run businesses, you know, worked in the NHS, been farmers, chemists, what have you. And I think the other thing that we need is for people to feel that their vote counts, because increasingly, and we saw it in the 24 election, people were using their votes tactically. That's not really giving people a choice.
Alex, let's just bring you into the conversation again. Now, you are an elected politician. This is doing enormous damage, not just to Labour and Keir Starmer, but to all political parties. People are going to say, well, you are all the same. Wrongly, because you're all not the same. Obviously, you're not the same. How are you going to win people over? Not necessarily justice reform, but you, as a politician, how are you going to go and knock on someone's door and they say, well, I can't trust a word any of you say?
It takes a lot of effort to do that. You have to go out there and talk to people. And talking is the most important thing that anyone involved in politics can do. And you can sit behind your keyboard and bash out some tweets. That's fine, but actually it's face-to-face engagement, knocking on doors. That's why all the parties, despite the growth of technology and the increasing role of social media and broadcast media and so on in politics, yes, that's fine. But actually it's those face-to-face conversations, that's when most of the real discussion can be done.
And you make a real difference. I mean, local government touches people's lives every single day in a way that national government, although it gets all the headlines, doesn't. And I think when people work out what their local councillors can do, they really appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's why these local elections are so important, because you're electing people to run those services and help on a very, very granular local basis. And, candidates from all parties have got a huge amount to offer, and we'll be spending a lot of time doing that in the next weeks and months ahead. OK, well, we'll leave the politics for now. I know a lot of you it's a Friday night after all, but today we have had the police knocking on the doors of Peter Mandelson on his house, searching his houses. 5 minutes ago, this bloke was in charge, almost literally in charge of our government, and now he's got the old Bill knocking at his door. gbnews.com/yoursay. Let me know your thoughts on all of the stories. Now, in the wake of the tragic murder of Mother of One, Rhiannon White, we covered it extensively on last week's show, who was killed in a frenzied attack by an asylum seeker. Pink Ladies campaigner Orla Minahan has helped set up the Rhiannon White Foundation, launched alongside Rhiannon's lovely mum, Siobhan. The charity will support children left behind by murdered mothers. We'll be talking about that after this short break. We'll see you then.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here with GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to Dewbs & Co. here until 7 o'clock with me, Alex Wilson and Joe Phillips. Now, earlier we discussed the company Palantir. A spokesperson for the company said its software is helping to deliver better public services in the UK. That includes delivering more NHS operations, helping Royal Navy ships to stay at sea for longer and helping the police tackle domestic violence. Well, a government spokesman said ministers engaged with a range of companies as part of their international travel, and Palantir is a long-standing investor in the UK. OK, now we're going to leave politics, well, it's kind of linked, but we're going to leave the whole sleaze of the Mandelson saga alone for 5 minutes because I want to talk to you about the subject we covered extensively last week. The tragic murder of mother of one, Rhiannon White, who was killed in a frenzied attack by an illegal migrant. Pink Ladies campaigner Orla Minahan has helped set up the Rhiannon White Foundation. Launched alongside Rhiannon's lovely mum, Siobhan. The charity will support children left behind by murdered mothers. Now, this is breaking news. The ladies only set this up today. So I'm joined now by Pink Ladies campaigner Orla Minahan. Orla, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Dawn. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you so much. I mean, you put this announcement out today that you were forming this foundation with Siobhan. Tell us a bit more about it, why you're doing it, what you want to achieve.
So Siobhan we came across Siobhan and the White family via our Pink Ladies demonstrations that we've been holding for the last few months, well, nearly a year now, where we have been protesting about the risk that illegal migrant men are posing to women up and down this country and children. And we met Siobhan and we were at the sentencing with Siobhan and her family on Friday, where the murderer, I'm not going to say his name,
no, please
was was given a life sentence and for the murder of Rhiannon White. Now, Rhiannon's mum, Siobhan, the most beautiful, wonderful woman, and the family are all so brave. She came on your programme on Monday morning, and I know that she was absolutely taken aback by the support that she got from the public. She felt it was so therapeutic that she was able to tell her story with you and Eamon on Monday morning. I don't think that there was anybody in this country that watched that programme that wasn't brought to tears by the story and the tragedy that this family have had to take. Rhiannon leaves behind a little boy who's 5. Actually, I think he's 6 now. But he's never going to know his mum. And there are women in this country that are murdered, approximately 150 women, mothers who are murdered every year and leave behind children. And I'm a mother. I cannot imagine what it would be like to lose your child under such horrendous circumstances. And those families are not only left with the grieving, but they're left with a baby or several siblings that have to be looked after and brought up. And that poses emotional strain, financial strain. So after Siobhan's interview with you, we spoke and I said to her, what do you want to do, Siobhan, to move forward to help keep Rhiannon's name alive and help you deal with this trauma. And she said, I'd love to set up a charity or do something that can help other families deal with the tragedy that we've been through. So that's what we did. So we've been speaking to each other every day. Siobhan, hello Siobhan, I know she's watching, and I just want to thank her for giving me and other people that are going to be involved in this the opportunity to help families like the White family and families like Lily Whitehouse, who was murdered last year. I went to her funeral in November. She was 19. She left behind a 6-week-old baby. And these families will never, ever get over these tragedies. So if there is anything that we can do as a charity moving forward to support emotionally and financially the families that have been left behind and the children, then that's what we want to do. And I think that that is going to help Siobhan deal with the loss of Rhiannon.
Ola, just quickly, unfortunately, we don't have enough time to. I could talk to you for the next hour. When I spoke to Siobhan during the week, she was saying that she's had no contact from the government. I spoke to several ministers during the week who all promised they would be in touch. Have they been in touch?
No, they haven't. They have also. I put a statement out on behalf of Siobhan on Wednesday, which was from her, saying publicly that Jess Phillips and Matt Weston both said that they had been in contact, and they have not. So this blatant lying and gaslighting is outrageous, and it has to stop. There has to be accountability, and as part of the charity, we are going to demand that as we move forward.
Ola, thank you so much for joining us, and huge amounts of luck. That's Ola Minahan there, who has set up our Rhiannon White Foundation. Thank you so much for your company today. Thank you so much for my guests. Don't go too far, though. There's loads more coming up after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. If you're looking for a change in the weather this weekend, I can offer you something